guys, welcome back to Raw Place. Thank you guys for your patience and time with me. We did not post last month, but I have been still working on a lot of different things, sitting with God and being very intentional about the things that we put out. So, the first chain of action, we have come up with a poll name for our Mirror Moment segment when we are out and about and interviewing the different women that we see. So that is named, drumroll please, it is Raw Reflection. And very excited about that. Got a lot of participation with that. Thank you guys for that. And as far as what we're doing today, today's episode is about where's your confidence? And I've done a lot of studying in the past. When it comes to like Bible studying and things, that is, Christianity is my background for where my faith is, and I do have a very personal relationship with God. However, He has really shown me just how important having confidence is, and what my confidence is in is not only in Him but in my identity. And so that's what we're going to be discussing today. So of course, my confidence started with, like I said, with Him, and it was learning how to find my voice, finding my voice with how He wants me to be rather than what the world wants me to be. And the ways that He's allowed me to develop my voice is spoken word. I started doing spoken word at a very young age, as far as like writing my own poems and poetry in private. I didn't really share it as much because I did not have that drive to speak to other people about it. It wasn't until I became an adult and I did my very first spoken word performance at Juneteenth. And that was very, very exciting. I will drop a picture like right here. But as far as that goes, it was a lot of preparation. I had to just step out on faith. I really had to let God not only lead me, but really like get over the fact that I get nervous a lot speaking in front of people. Even in this, I'm still like slightly nervous, but I have learned that it is not by my own will but by His, and He is allowing me to speak through He's speaking through me to be able to deliver something that somebody needs to possibly hear. And even with this, like, God is going to allow the people that really need to hear this to resonate in their hearts and in their spirit and their mind. And they'll be able to, know that someone just like me had to start somewhere. And that's the goal. And I remember even then at my first spoken word performance, I very much so was like pasting and just being very, very nervous, and having a lot of anxiety. And I went through this process where the weeks prior, I was like reciting the spoken word and how I wanted to be delivered. And even then it was like not exactly how it happened. I'll see if I can actually put a clip of that in here too. But there was a lady that was there. She was the announcer, and she does like spoken word poetry. Her name is Courtney, and she still does spoken word performances. But the way that she just lit up the stage, it was very encouraging. And even then, like when she was coming back after she announced me, she gave me so much uplifting words to just let me know, like, just go out there and do it, do your thing. And it made me just realize, like, I had to get out of my head and not be in my head, but be in the moment. And I feel like I did a very, very good job. It was very powerful for me. And then a couple months later, I got another, I had another spoken word performance at my church, and it was the 25th year anniversary at that time. And even with that performance, I had someone else coming to my aid, and God just knew He knows His daughter. So I was still nervous then, again, pasting and just waiting for my turn. And I was just like, I don't know why I'm so scared. I don't know why I'm nervous, but someone was like, they're just people. And even though that may be true, we have this thing about being judged and being criticized and the lack thereof. And I was just like, I've just always had this God, I'm nervous kind of mentality when it comes to public speaking. But even then, I went up there and got it done. And I was very proud of myself because from that point on, I've had small events of doing spoken word. I'm still very much so nervous, but a lot of the times I get to study prior to and wait for God to tell me what it is that He wants me to talk about, and then just come up there and do what He needs me to do and be a vessel for Him. And that's something that I am very happy with, because there was once upon a time where it was just between me, God, and my pen. So that's one way that God has been working with me on building my confidence. And even with this podcast, it is very intentional on what God wants me to do with it. I'm not just posting anything just because I want to post. I'm not coming on here and just blabbering. It's very thought out. It's very not only intentional, but it's very personal for me. And that's because not only am I showing the most vulnerable parts of me, but I have to be comfortable to a certain degree to turn on my camera and just go. And so, like I said, the goal is to make this not about me, but for all women, to have a platform to be able to empower one another. So I do plan on having guests soon. My cousin Raven, who you guys have seen in the first episode, actually, and that also ties into this episode. But my cousin on the first episode, she has encouraged me as well to keep going with the podcast, and she lets me know, like, the audience that we have when we're doing these things that are very intentional for us is not for our families or necessarily close friends, but again, for someone to know that it's someone in the world that is going through what I'm going through and I'm not alone. And that's who we are appealing to. So I'm definitely excited about the different guests that are going to come on. I'm very happy to see what they're going to share, and it's just knowing that our vulnerability is really our greatest strength. And so, yes, we're going to get into some good things in the next few upcoming weeks. Now, in the first episode, we did touch on our grandmothers, and something that I've been working on lately, which applies to this episode, is a family tree. And the reason why the family tree is so important is because not only do you know your history, but you get to learn about people from previous generations and even the generations that are still, very much so present now. And something that I got a chance to unfold is, as I mentioned also in previous episodes, I am a hairstylist. And I found out that on my grandmother's side of the family, they had someone was a barber. And then speaking with my mom about my grandfather's side, she told me about her grandmother, and she was also a hairdresser. So I feel like that is very much so in alignment with who I am and the identity that I was able to find just naturally, but also genetically. It's in my bloodline. And I've also, at the top of the year, one of the very things that me and my aunt was on my father's side was discussing is that we wanted to learn history. And I feel like God was very intentional throughout the year because there was actually a family reunion that took place in August of this year. So I got to learn a lot about my father's side of the family. And because I've already grew up with most of my father's siblings, children, so my cousins and their kids, I know them. But to go from my grandfather up to learn that we come from Ghana, and to learn that we have like 200 years of history, that was very exciting. That was like an answered prayer for me. And so it made me think about my grandmother's side of my mom's side of the family. And though me and my grandma would have conversations about it, and I'm a writer, so essentially I wrote down the names, I never put it together. So last month I started a family tree, and I got a lot of the information down, and I have been researching for the most part. And like I said, it touched me because God was very intentional with me when it comes to that. Identity is important, and an identity in Him builds our confidence because we know who we are and we know why we are the way that we are. And it's very important to know where we come from. And by us knowing our family history, that helps us to be able to identify ourselves and know that we are here for a purpose. We are here for a reason, and in that reason we can exist as we should rather than what someone wants us to be or who somebody told us we should be. We know for ourselves because we've done that homework. And for me, I feel like God has really allowed me to have the space and opportunity in the last 10 years to really grasp that concept and really be able to have confidence in who He called me to be, for me to share that with others. And that's very impactful and that's very empowering. And I feel like that had a lot to do why the episode didn't come out, because there was a lot of groundwork that was being placed, and for me to have a lot of revelation on what it is that He wants me to do. So aside from that, He also kept giving me a word of covenant, and I studied what that was in the Bible, but basically covenant is what keeps you distracted from what God is trying to do through you and for you. We don't worry about what's on someone else's plate because God is serving us a full course meal of our very own. And so covenants, oftentimes people are looking outwardly. We're looking at what is going on in the world with other people. We have like social media, Instagram, and all those things where we're seeing all the lavishness that everybody has. We don't know how they obtained it. We don't know what they did to maintain it. We don't know any of that. We just know that they have it, it looks nice, and boom, right? But the part about covetousness is because we're focused on something else, we're not thinking about ourselves. We're not looking at what makes me me. What am I supposed to have? What does God see fit for me, right? And we all have an inheritance, right? To some degree, whether that's knowledge, wisdom, a talent, a gift, even money or whatever, right? But it lets me know that we can't focus on outwardly, we have to focus inwardly. And when we're focused on us inwardly, we can see the change outwardly. And so it just helps me to know that I'm organically creating something that God said is for me and for others. And He's doing it through me. And that is something that I'm very satisfied with and I'm content with. I don't have to be something that I'm not, because I'm being everything that He wants me to be. And so we have to be aware of how we are seeing things and perceiving it, because that can take us away from the confidence that He has within us. And essentially, we're not focused on our own identity. Now, the mirror moment question that I have for you all is, if confidence is a fruit, what seed of faith are you planting today? For me to answer my own question, I like to think that last year around this time, I started to step out on faith to fully submerge myself into raw place. Last year around this time, the very first episode was filmed. And because I was so worried about what people would think, or I was just afraid to truly start, I let that block me for 6 months until it actually got released. And I was motivated, but I had a lot of roadblocks and I was deterred because I didn't know how it would be perceived. But during that time, I continued to allow myself to get adjusted, and even to the degree of allowing God to really lead me, and again, be very intentional with the things that He wants me to speak about. So now it does come a little bit easier because I'm actively working on it and I'm trusting God in the process to direct and order my steps. And I know that because I'm waiting for His guidance and I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, even talking about this episode and building community, I know that I'm eventually going to complete the vision that He has given to me. I look at this like it's a part of my garden, and I'm growing the beautiful trees and the flowers, and I'm pulling the weeds that need to be pulled and allowing God to nourish all parts of this with His sun, and He's watering it. I'm able to plant new seeds and allow time to have things to grow. And eventually I'm going to see the fruit from the labor, and there's going to be a harvest that I have. So that's my answer for my mirror moment question this week, or for this episode. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate all of those who do watch and subscribe. I appreciate those who follow and engage with the content. Remember, we are on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we are on Facebook group now, and we're even on here, YouTube. So definitely subscribe. We will be getting active, and we will continue to be working and allowing God to lead us. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Have a good rest of y'all day. Or night, depending on where y'all are.
Testing, Miss Dejanique Mayhem!
Trying to turn generational trauma into generational wealth. So excuse me if I'm unapologetic in the way that I step. I move a little different because I'm trying to make a difference. Don't have to overexert myself for you to pay attention. Some will understand and some will be against it, but either way, I'm unlearning and learning new ways to complete the mission. When you want change, you take a new position, not conforming to ways that'll alter your intentions. You'll do things with much more grace and patience. Gotta build your character, but you have to be willing to run the race, knowing when to speak up and when to be silent. It's always a time and a place. You just have to know when to acknowledge it. Your reaction holds more weight when you realize you're operating out of love versus hate. God wants us all to truly be great. We are his children and we are gloriously made. We just have to use the wisdom we are given to bring forth change. When you put him first and you trust in his plan, God will bless you with favor because you stayed true to what he said.